Hello, my friends, especially the ones on Facebook. And in the spirit of the season, the fast season, I wish my Muslim faithful Eid Mubarak. I am here today to talk about many different issues regarding Nigeria, of course. First, I think we should start with the current issues going on. We have a lot of problems in Nigeria, especially in terms of politics. Now, one of the main problems, by the way, is that politics is taking all our efforts, all our time, all our minds. It seems like everything we discuss on Facebook is about politics. Now, should it be that way? Or should we be focusing more on how we fix our country? Politics should be about service. It should be about professionals coming together to work towards the country being better. Unfortunately, it isn't like that in Nigeria. There's always an intrigue or another. We have a lot of issues about corruption here, corruption there. We've had so much corruption continuously to the point where we actually have some people asking for Evans to be freed. And the logic they're trying to use there is that our politicians are just as bad criminals as Evans is. It really doesn't make sense to me, but that is what we're dealing with right now. So it should be of concern to the society. Now, when we look at Nigeria and we look at all these issues that we constantly have, the question is, when will it end? What must happen before it ends? Now, this causes me to go back in history, to go look back at where we were. Okay, we had our independence from the British monarchy. We used to be a colonial country colonized by the British. Well, we got our independence, and most Nigerians believe that we started off very well after independence, before the issue of the Civil War. Okay, the Civil War happened and we regrouped, but some things changed, and I think those changes are the fundamentals of the issues that we have today. Now, do we continue going in circles over this issue or these issues, or do we find a way out to make progress? There are people that keep on referring to a certain time. Okay, well, blah, blah. And everybody seems to be manipulating and using divisiveness to get the people going in tangents. Well, in my personal opinion, Nigeria should be a great country. You see, the fact that we have an amalgamation of many groups, many races of people, or ethnic groups, if you want to call it that. We've lived together, we've intertwined, and if we really think about it, none of us would want to do without the others, because we're so used to each other. However, a lot of our politicians seem to appeal to our ethnic stocks to divide us. They use ethnicity to create cracks between us. But the fact of the matter is, we're all going to live and we're going to die. What counts is what we do while we're living. And no matter where we come from, no matter what it is, whatever we met, we're going to live. That should be an anchor for how we look at things. Unfortunately, it isn't so. So now, let's go back a little bit further to the times where there were kingdoms expanding. As far as 814 BC, we had in North Africa the Carthaginians. The Carthaginians were the thorn in the flesh of the Greek. The civilization of the Carthaginians began when a queen from today's Lebanon, it used to be Tyre then, had to get away from her brother who took over after their father died. Now she ran off and established Carthage in the area called Tunisia today. Well, Carthage at one point colonized Sicily, which is now part of Italy. And as the Romans started rising, they had problems with the Greek and all that. Then Rome rose, Rome got involved. They had times of alliances and they had times of conflict. Throughout history, there has been alliances and conflicts. Now, the smart people along the way made the right alliances to protect their people and reduce the potential of conflict. Today, we have issues about Qatar, and we can see the Saudis are very well aligned with the Americans. Now, this is despite the fact that 9/11 had 11 Saudi Arabians involved. However, they see that their best alignment is with America. Let me pause for a moment. Have we ever wondered what is happening in our diplomatic circles? Have we ever wondered what exactly Nigeria's diplomatic policy is, or foreign policy? It seems like we have none on the surface. Who knows if we really have one under the surface? What we have that's going good for us right now is that we have President Buhari, who we voted into power because of his credibility and his honesty. We also have Professor Yemi Osibajo, and they've spent 2 years without any scandal, except for a couple of guys working with President Buhari who have been suspended. Now, have we ever had that kind of credibility in Nigeria prior to now? In any case, it is a good thing that we have Buhari in power, and we seem to finally be going on a positive way. However, we still have the National Assembly that has now become a thorn in the presidency. So we thought we got something good. Now, some people blame Buhari for the emergence of those two leaders of the House and Senate for not standing firm. Some people keep on telling us about I am for everybody, I am for nobody. Now, can these people honestly say they've never made a mistake? We all knew Buhari wasn't a politician going in. But we knew that we were in some kind of trouble, and we needed something to intervene and change the way things were going. So he made a mistake, so what? We all make mistakes every day. What we do is learn from our mistakes and improve from them. We have in our Senate some jokers, maybe a lot of jokers. There's one that decided to give us a dance and a song. Thank God the people from Kogi are doing something to try and change that. We also have one, Nembe, that the Supreme Court has finally kicked out and asked to refund the salaries and benefits he got sitting as senator for 2 years. But this process took 2 years. What chances do we have that we'll get that money back? Who knows? We'll keep looking. But back to what I was trying to say. Historically, there's always been conquest and blah, blah, blah. Conquest and alliances and stuff. We right now in Nigeria, we're just there. doing nothing. We have a select few, less than 1%, enjoying and taking all the wealth of Nigeria, but yet we do nothing. We have these people, most of them have dual citizenship, most of them, their kids are covered for life, and if there was any kind of conflict in Nigeria, you can bet their immediate family wouldn't be part of the casualties. They'll be out of the country right away. So who is there for the poor man? That's a question. Who's there for the poor man? Is the poor man even there for himself? Look at the poor. They are the ones used to oppress the poor. The poor are the ones that will sell their voter's card for a bag of rice, some palm oil, and maybe something else. And for 4 years, they go through hell. And that's where the problem is. You see, I think we that we claim to be educated have failed our country. Why do I say that? Well, if we are indeed educated, then we wouldn't have so many naive and ignorant people sharing the same nationality that we share. It is our duties to educate people and let them understand the consequences of their actions and how it will hurt them later. My people, this is reality. And most of you on my Facebook know I'd always tell you the truth. The poor happen to be the poor man's worst enemy. And we have to change that. We have to change it within. But who's there for the poor? Now, Nigeria has a lot of resources buried under the ground. If you go to the U.S. Geological Society and check on the critical minerals needed by the United States, that they need to have a strategic stockpile, you'll find a lot of those minerals in Nigeria. Yet they're still untapped. Now we have some Chinese coming in, mining our gold and diamonds, precious stones and stuff, and secretly they just pay the people in the neighborhood and everybody's mom. Nobody says anything about it. They think they're getting away with stuff. Now these Chinese are taking billions, possibly, and paying them peanuts to get this stuff, and they're shipping them out. Nobody is there. We've lost the conscience of Nigeria. We definitely need to get that back. Nigeria has to mean something to each and every one of us. It can no longer continue the way it is. Now, who's there for the poor man? Let's go back there again. What I am proposing could sound radical, but if we only have so much time to live, and we've been making the same errors, and we haven't changed anything, we haven't had some kind of intervention to make things go a different way, that is the definition of insanity. You keep doing the same thing over and over again, yet you keep expecting a different result. That can never work. My people, we need to wake up. What I am proposing that we actually do is make some kind of deal with the United States and hand over Nigeria to the United States. Let's become a part. Let's become the 51st state. Now, you guys probably going, wow, what kind of craziness is that? It's not craziness, it's reality. If you really want to enjoy Nigeria in the hands of the Americans, first of all, they'll kill OPEC. We won't have to be members of OPEC. That's the price we would pay. America, if they paid every Nigerian $100,000, out of Nigeria they can make 10 times that. Probably within a year to 2 years too. That's 190 million people being paid $100,000 plus a citizenship. Let me ask you, out of 10 Nigerians, I can guarantee you 9 will accept this proposal. If we're going to keep on wasting our lives and keep on making mistakes, maybe we need to put our lives and become part of something meaningful. Maybe we need to propose it to the Americans. They can get all their rare metals, their rare earths, probably a lot of them in Nigeria. We still have them buried. Each time there is a big mining conglomerate that wants to come, our politicians frustrate them. But our politicians are making billions and billions off us. But the rest of us are just there, doing nothing. You know what? Let's go think about this and let's debate this on Facebook. But this is my proposal, and I think it will work for Nigeria. Hey, most of us want what the politicians have. Most Nigerians would love to have the American citizenship. That means, it doesn't mean people will start running to America. There are a lot of Nigerians in America that want to come back, but they're worried about that citizenship thing. And these people could be a plus to us. Now, let's talk about something else before I sign off. We see many of our young people saying now that, yes, they want to run for office. It's time to hand over to the young. I, personally, I believe we need to hand over to the younger people. But when I say younger people, there seems to be a misconception based on what I've seen online. It's like every Dick and Harry feels like he's qualified. No, that is wrong. That's not what I'm talking about. Every year we see Nigerians graduating from Harvard, Yale, a lot of Ivy League colleges. We see Nigerians in the British counterpart to the Ivy League of the British. But what's the incentive for these Nigerians to come back home and help fix the country? There is zero incentive. First of all, we've accepted this bad belly thing as a norm, where when we see people, rather than appreciate them, we get jealous of them. And we want to make sure we frustrate the hell out of them. That's the experience of most Nigerians that decided to come back home. They get frustration everywhere because they're dealing with these politicians that don't know that these credible people, once they arrive and start to show their credibility, they wouldn't stand a chance in politics because people will call for these people. So they will suppress them, they will oppress them, and they will make sure they get frustrated enough to run back. Let's call it what it is. Now, back to the politics thing. Listen, you cannot come out of some village and say you want to be a senator. You cannot come out from some village, first generation educated, and say you want to be a governor. Not to talk of presidency. Are you kidding? Let me tell you for real. If you go and look at the Western countries, they look for the very best. The very best means you must have been properly educated. You must have a lot of exposure. You must have experienced civilized world to know what should even be expected of. How would you know what to be expected of you when you grew up under the past 25, 30 years in Nigeria? You never went abroad, you never lived anywhere. You don't even know what is right from wrong. Because you grew up in a corrupt society. You're a product of the current society. Until you open up your horizon and experience other things, you're going to be just that. It's not your fault. But why would you think you're the best? With Nigerians setting huge standards in America, in Europe, all over the world, setting bounds and leaps. And you sit with your little exposure that's probably not past your small community, and you think you can just jump up and become a senator or run for the presidency. That isn't good thinking. That's what got us where we are. Most of the people that we call senators, members of the House, and many others representing us are not qualified. They don't have the exposure. It's not just book qualification. High school is enough. Plus exposure, plus experience. You must know what you want for the country. I'm signing out, folks. Let's start with that. Let's debate on Facebook these issues that I've raised. Like I said, let's hand over Nigeria. Let's gain something for the poor man. Let's get him a citizenship. You know, before I go, I must mention one thing. Nigeria used to be part of the British Commonwealth. And when I was young, I could go to any member state of the British Commonwealth with just my passport, and at the airport, they'll stamp it. Well, the British kicked Nigeria out during the time Abacha was there. Well, let's say during the time that we had the soldiers in power. Well, the soldiers have been out of power now for what? 12 years plus? What happened to our Commonwealth status? My understanding is we're back to being members of the Commonwealth. But what about the benefits we lost? Have we got them back? What's wrong with our diplomacy in Nigeria? These people do not care about the typical Nigerian. They just talk and they keep us occupied with all the crap they do, the stupid things they do that we shouldn't even be seen, not to talk of discussing. And we're busy fighting each other, discussing all this crap rather than doing and facing up and forcing them to do what they're supposed to be doing. Enough is enough, Nigeria. I sign out with that. We'll follow up later.